Greetings, you glorious gamers. After sinking way too many hours into the fantastic Horizon Forbidden West, I've decided to put together a video of tips and tricks that should help. Whether you're entering the Forbidden West for the first time or you're a seasoned nerd like me, there should be something in here for everybody. Now, I am not a professional gamer by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought maybe putting a little tips and tricks video should help people that love this game just as much as I do. So without further ado, let's get started. So this first section is going to be all about settings and the kind of settings that I like to do. First thing you want to do is turn your weapon quick select on. This will allow you to switch between your current weapon and whatever previous weapon you were using. You can also, if you open up the weapon wheel, press square and it will tag whichever weapon that you always want to swap to. It's just a simple case of tapping L1 and you'll simply switch to either the previous weapon or weapon that you've designated by attaching it to the square button. Next we have dodge in focus mode. You want to put this one on, so even when you're in focus mode and scanning something, instead of having to click back out, you can just hit the dodge button, which is incredibly handy if you're just about to be attacked. Next one's just a small thing, but turn on your auto sprint on the mount. It just means that if you're on a mount, anytime you get on it, it's just running straight away, which is pretty handy. This next one's, for me personally, I don't like having subtitles on, so I always turn those off. I think it distracts from what you're watching. I always put on favourite performance mode as well. You want the higher frame rates. There's a lot of times in this game where you're aiming at kind of small targets, so the higher frame rate that you've got while you're playing, the better. This next one can come in handy. Personally, I don't use it myself because I don't like to see it on the screen all the time, but you can turn climbing annotations on, so you're always going to see where the handholds are on the walls. I find it a bit distracting. I prefer the immersion of it a bit more myself, so I tend to leave it off. But if you turn it on like so, you can see exactly where you can and can't climb all the time. It can be very handy, especially when you first start playing. So next we have the accessibility section. This is where you can change difficulty. You can customize the whole lot of it. So you can how much damage Aloy takes, how much enemy health they have. There's the easy loot, which we will come to in a little bit. But the quest pathfinding and waypoint pathfinding, I always leave to Explorer. It means you haven't got big markers on your screen the whole time. You want to minimize your HUD as much as possible, really, because the game's just too beautiful to look at. Next we have weapon wheel slowdown. This dictates how much the world around you will slow down when you enter the weapon wheel. I put it on the slowest. I will show you each different one so you know what they'll look like on their settings. So it is a preference. I do it on the slowest, just gives you more time to do whatever you need to do. So this next one, still in the accessibility menu, is Mount Follows Road. So it's got, if anybody's played Red Dead Redemption 2, it's got the same system. So if you're riding your mount, you put it on the road, you just push X, it will follow the road, and after a while, about 3 or 4 seconds, you can let go of X, and it will just keep charging down the same piece of road without you even touching the controller, which can be handy sometimes. I don't tend to use mounts that much. But it can be useful. This next one is in general settings and then custom HUD settings, and it's called interaction markers. So it's set to focus only, which means when you hit your focus, it will highlight anything that you can pick up. Now I set it that it's always on, so when you come within a certain distance of things you can collect, it automatically pops up, so you always know what you can pick up, and I find that a lot easier personally. Still in the general settings, we have show headpiece. So the armour is pretty cool in Horizon Zero Dawn, but I'm not too keen on a lot of the helmets. So I like to turn the show headpiece to off. I think just looks a bit better. So this one's easy loot. So we went past it in the settings earlier. In Horizon, you can target certain bits of the machines to knock off components that are a bit more valuable. So if you destroy a machine, it tends to destroy the more valuable components, but you can knock these off beforehand and collect them later. This takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. So particularly on my first run through, I put easy loot on, which means any time I kill an animal, depending on whether I've knocked anything off or not, you still get the components for it once it's been destroyed. And that does make things a lot easier. So that's everything covered in as far as settings go. Next we'll look at normal gameplay tips. So the first area you get to is called the Daunt. This is basically your tutorial area. You want to do as much in here as you possibly can. You can't do everything. There are a few things that are locked off because you need weapons for them. But you want to cover as much ground as you can and get as many points as you can before you push on to the next bit. In your bottom left hand corner you have your tools, things that you can use. Now a really handy feature is that you can swap these around, so you can put smoke bombs next to rocks, next to potions. Anything that you use the most of, you can adapt that to suit what's best for you. Another cool feature is if you open up the weapon wheel, click R3, Aloy will put her weapon away. It's just a little thing, but it's a tidy little addition. Explore as much as possible. It's a beautiful world to look around. There's stuff hidden everywhere. Also listen to Aloy. She will give you little tips every now and then of places you should go or something she's noticed. Once you've done your tutorial area, I'd suggest sticking to the main quest. You'll get to a point where it splits up and you get 3 options within your main quest. Complete those 3 options and it will give you sort of equipment that you can use to access other areas. I'm trying not to spoil it. If you do need more skill points, do a side mission. Every time you've completed a side mission, it will reward you with extra skill points. Which brings us nicely on to the skill tree. Pick your path early. Whatever kind of playstyle you want to follow, whether it be warrior, each one is pretty self-explanatory. I went with Hunter, which is your more ranged attacks, and Infiltrator. They're the 2 that I concentrated on most. I like to hide and shoot from a distance. These points you can't respend. You can't cancel them once you've spent them. There are enough points in the game to cover everything if you're going to do all the side content and things. So don't worry about missing out on something. But I would suggest, choose a playstyle you're comfortable with and stick to it until the end. And that's really about it. That kind of wraps up my key tips and tricks for the game. If there's anything that you found handy that I've not covered, please mention it in the comments. If you have found anything handy that I have mentioned, please let me know. I will be doing a separate video eventually on a pretty cool build that I've got for myself, a mixture between sort of hunter long range and a fallback plan for when things get a bit dicey when I have to get up close and personal. That will be out. I don't want to get the time to do it. But thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.